The town of Hinton respectfully acknowledges that it is located on the First Peoples traditional lands. We recognize this traditional territory to show respect and understanding to those who walked this land since time immemorial. Today, we uphold our ongoing responsibility to work together in the spirit of the intent of the treaties with all First Peoples and nations that call this place home. The town expresses gratitude for the opportunity to build a better community on these sacred lands for generations to come. And with that, we will call this regular council meeting for February 6th, 2024 to order at 4 p.m. Adoption of the agenda. Council, any additions or deletions from the agenda? Seeing nothing. Administration, any additions or deletions to the agenda? CEO Panasiuk.
Nothing from administration.
Thank you, CEO Panasiuk. Councillor Race.
I'd like to move that we adopt the regular council meeting for February 6th, 2024.
Thank you, Councillor Race. Council, the motion on the floor is that council adopt the agenda for February 6th as presented. Any discussion? Seeing nothing, we'll call the question. Councillors, please vote now. And that motion carries unanimously. Brings us to section 3 of our agenda, council minutes for adoption. Councillors? Councillor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move that we adopt the regular council minutes for January 16th, 2024. Also, the committee of the whole meeting, January 23rd, 2024, and the special council meeting minutes for January 30th, 2024. Oh, sorry, which one did I miss? Regular council meeting for January 16th?
The public hearings.
Oh, they're in there as well. I apologize.
You just read it as written.
As written. So regular meeting, council meeting minutes, January 16th for 2024, including the municipal development plan number 1084-2, public hearing minutes, and the land use bylaw number 1088-18, public hearing minutes. Also the committee of the whole meeting for January 23rd, 2024. And the special meeting minutes for January 30th, 2024. Sorry if I.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. So council, the motion on the floor is that council adopt the minutes for the regular council meeting on January 26th, 2024, the municipal development plan number 1084 TAC 2 public hearing minutes from January 16th, 2024, the land use bylaw number 1088 TAC 18 public hearing minutes from January 16th, 2024, the committee of the whole meeting from January 23rd, 2024, and the special council meeting minutes from January 30th, 2024. Councillors, any discussion? Councillor Taylor.
That's different than what I've had here.
Yes, admin, can you amend the motion that we have to vote on here, please? Any other discussion on the motion on the floor, council? Seeing nothing, we'll allow administration to catch up before we call the question. Thank you, Ms. Davy Campbell. All right, council, the motion on the floor that council adopt the minutes from the regular council meeting on January 16th, 2024, the municipal development plan number 1084 TAC 2 public hearing minutes from January 16th, 2024, the land use bylaw number 1088 TAC 18 public hearing minutes from January 16th, 2024, the committee of the whole from January 23rd, 2024, and the special council meeting January 30th, 2024. Councillors, please vote now. That motion is carried unanimously. This brings us to section 4 of our agenda, Citizens Minute with Council. Are there any citizens in the audience today who wish to speak with council during Minute with Council? Sir?
Thank you, council. I hope you've had a productive day. I thought we'd be on a first name basis by now rather than sir.
Please do speak your name, though, for the record.
Tom Mulvihill. Prior to last year, the first time I was ever in council and saying anything was 20-some years ago. I was a member of the Hinton Historical Society, and we had taken on a pretty ambitious project of moving the train station. Lots of hurdles, but anyway, we got to the point where we had acquired the funding. We had acquired, CNR had agreed to give us a block. They had agreed to let us take the station, but we had less than a month to move it, or they would be taking care of it themselves. The hurdle in the whole thing was we didn't have a place to go. We preferred the Green Square, which would have been fabulous. The town preferred a site over by the West End grocery store. Anyway, we said our piece at council and was much toing and froing, and God bless him, Alex Galbraith, our mayor at the time, stood up and said, council, he addressed the audience and said, folks, we've got a hardworking group here, all the volunteers trying to do something good for Hinton. He said, they're not asking for a handout. He said, they're asking for a hand up. I've always remembered that. And I thought if I ever got on that side of the table, I would try to keep that in mind. A couple things in this last week, we've seen a flurry of activity, and I'd just like to respond to that. Councillor Hawes, back on February 1st, you had something that was very compelling, but in it you said we, meaning council, adhere to the highest standards of transparency. Your words, not mine. Why don't we put that to work tonight? And what I would like you to commit tonight publicly is saying when the new $20,000 golf report comes in, you commit, council commits to sharing that with the public as soon as it comes in. We would like to see that. Councillor Chambers, there was some discussion on, or some talk on the fact that PAR 999 may or may not have a 10-year agreement of first purchase, or however you want to word that. We haven't heard anything back. In view of transparency, would you commit tonight publicly to telling us one way or the other, do they have a 10-year agreement, first right of purchase or not? Community would like to hear that. Mr. Taylor, in the Hinton Voice, it deserves a response. It portrayed the golf club, I'll call it as a freeloader. In it, you said the golf course is taxpayer supported, taxpayers hold significant liabilities. I would question that because I think the town of Hinton holds significant assets rather than liabilities at that golf course. We're a hard grouping bunch of volunteers, been there since '62, generations have been there. Anything we've asked for as far as a loan has been paid. With the exception of the Treasure Branch loan, and that was a big loan. We had everybody knows about the water issues we had. Everybody knows about the clubhouse burnt down, and we still tried to plug ahead. Of the $250,000 that the town board lent, or whatever you want to term it, of that $250,000, Mr. Taylor, it's not $51,000 that's left. It's closer to $34,000 that's left. We paid the rest of it off as our club. The $1 million Treasure Branch loan, I wasn't on the board, and I don't have all the particulars. But the gist of it is that there was $17,000 that we did not have the funding for to make that payment. The penalty for that was that after missing one payment, the town of Hinton, being the co-signer, took that over. I don't lose my house over missing one payment. But whatever the things were, that's what shook down. And now the town of Hinton had the golf course, and as Mr. Taylor says, calls it liabilities. Well, these liabilities, we've got a clubhouse up there that has got, I've heard $500,000 kitchen. I know that hall is second to none in the community. I suspect that the golf course itself is worth a couple $1 million, and all you folks had to do was pay off $900 and some thousand. So I think that's a pretty good deal, and I disagree with the town portraying, or community portray, or the community perceiving that we've been freeloaders. We have not been freeloaders. We paid off every town. County Hinton now owns more assets than whatever liabilities you may perceive. We were asking for a handout. We weren't asking for a handout, we were asking for a hand up, and we got an anchor. So I hope when the town council here, you think and remember Alex Galbraith saying, making the difference between a handout and a hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Mulvihill.
Good afternoon, mayors, councilors.
Good
Thank you
afternoon,
for
Wilf.
your time,
Can you please state your name for the record and then carry on?
and I would like to go over some items that I question. And that is to do with R99 procedures that council went through.
Oh, Councilor Race.
Have him, could you state your name?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Wilf Quasney. Sorry about that. I got ahead of myself.
That's okay. Thank you, Wilf. Carry on.
So anyway, I've got, some of this might overlap what other people have brought up. But I'm gonna go over this, and if it's overlapped, correct me, please. But my first question to the town council is, how does the procedure here in town run? Who is council ahead of the administration? Is the CAO ahead of the councilors? Or is the administration ahead of the CAO? Because what I find out is that it's administration that's council answers to. Is it not? Is it not supposed to be the other way around?
Sir, this is not a question and answer time. It's simply a time for you to make your
Okay.
statements. Thank you.
Okay, we gave the administrative director, who gave the administrative directive the power to advise the CAO? It should be the other way around. At what point did the taxpayer become responsible for council mayor to be the salespeople for PAR 99? When I intended to open house in PAR 99 on January 8, 2023, top town manager, management, some councilors and mayor were the only ones that were pushing for this project the hardest out of all the people I talked to. I had a lengthy conversation with Councillor Stuart Taylor, which we did. And I questioned him, who is paying for this project? Mr. Taylor replied, the developer pays all, right? Well, here we go. Can councilors explain to the taxpayer, because I'm representing, as a taxpayer, I represent them. Can council explain to the taxpayer who paid for the council members and the mayor to attend the open house, as most were on the town payroll at the time? I also would like to
Councilor
know.
Ostashik, pause for a moment.
Mr. Mayor, I know this isn't an opportunity for question and answer. I just want to clarify to Mr. Quasney, though, that none of us got paid for attending the open house by the town or anyone else.
Thank you, Councilor Ostashik.
That's a personal decision that we made as individuals and members of the community, just
But-
like you did.
But I said they were here on town time. No, they weren't?
That is
Okay, all right. Sorry about that one.
Councilor Race.
I would
Mr.
also
Mayor.
like,
Hold on there, sir.
Yeah, I think this would be a wonderful opportunity for administration to get Mr. Quasney's phone number or some contact information, so all the questions that you have, someone from administration can answer them.
they have got my number.
They do.
Yeah,
So,
they've got
yeah.
my number and also my email. They've all got it here in town.
Thank you, Councilor Race.
I would also know why town council and the mayor are planning to hire a golf advisor. What goes on here? I thought par 99 pays all. Now I understand we're gonna hire a golf advisor. And we're gonna pay for it.
Sir, that is an item for further in the agenda today. It's going to be discussed and is going to be discussed in public. You're going to get your answers.
Then I go on to the shovel hasn't even been purchased yet to put in the ground for this project. And the town management, councillors and the mayor are already spending taxpayers' dollars on the project, which means for this golf advisor. Isn't that supposed to be part of the par 99? I thought they pay all. Then I got on here, my own version of this project, and you heard it before. My own version of this project is somehow, there's something wrong with it because there's too many things going on after the project has already been passed, from what I see. There's too many things coming in, like the golf advisor, and all these things are starting to come in. All these things are starting to come in. So myself, I see it as a scam. And here's the thing. And this was just recently on the news. It says 60 to 70% of the people and companies, municipalities, governments included, that get scammed are too embarrassed to admit it, and then will spend a lot more resources and money trying to cover it up. And it all makes me wonder, is this one going to be the same?
Thank you very much, sir. You may enjoy our next delegation presentation on frauds and scams awareness. But thank you very much, Mr. Kwasny. You have exhausted the time for today. Thank you.
And my answer to that, my own answer to that is yes. And up goes the taxes.
Thank you, Mr. Kwasny.
And that's not, it's not right.
Thank you for your time,
You-
Mr. Kwasny.
you folks, the councillors and the mayor, we vote you in. I voted you guys in. So I'd like to see you act for us.
Stick around today. Many of the questions you answered are on the agenda for later today. Thank you. Are there any other citizens in the audience today that wish to speak for a minute with the mayor? Administration, is there anyone online that? Hello, Alan. Please state your name.
Ellen Lebrecq. I guess I'm just here today to say I'm really sad to see that we hastily rezoned for this project. There's been a lot of people that are very upset about it. Our golf course has fought really hard to work to pay back our loans, and I'd really like the community to understand that. Yes, we had bad management. Those people aren't working at the golf course anymore. We're trying to get it going and keep it going, and we've been paying back those loans. Yes, you acquired the golf course and you took over the mortgage, the assets, and it's an asset, not a liability. And get your numbers straight, Mr. Taylor, when you put something in print. Because it's absolutely deplorable that you can put something in a public paper and you didn't have your numbers even correct.
Councillor
In
Taylor.
my opinion.
My numbers are exactly the same numbers that are on the town website. Did
Look at the
administra-
golf
did
course
Administration
books.
confirm that?
CEO Panasiuk.
And I received the CFO of the town. Through the mayor, I don't have that information on hand, but we can certainly check into it.
Thank you. And ma'am, please
Yeah.
maintain just yourself, just statements, please.
There's $34,000 that is left to be paid on that one loan, and I know that for a fact. To publicly put in a paper that it was not that amount, I think is very distasteful. That's for council that is representing us. That's just my opinion. I just want people in our community to know how hard that golf course has been fighting to stay up and paying on their bills. And yes, you acquired us. I don't think that was a great deal. It's been done. It's done. Now we're being sold out to a company that people have a lot of questions on. Nobody's really getting the answers. You rush through zoning and here we sit. And I'm just saying, I think you should have halted that. You should have been more transparent and upfront with people. And I just don't like what I'm seeing. As for the golf course assessment of what's right in course design from Par 99's point, they hired a person that was let go from Browning. Browning is who we had do our golf course assessment on the layout. So you've got two different points of view. I get that the town is looking at finding out their own point of view. To the tune of what the amount is for that person to do that, I find is extreme to spend that kind of money. But if that's going to put a better light on what the course design should actually be and how this project moves forward, and you guys have already rezoned it and it's going to happen. Shovels are going to be in the ground. But I hope moving forward, you guys start considering what an actual golf course should play like and be like, and not just stick something in the middle of it and everybody has to suffer because of it. That's what I want to see happen. You said there's a lot of work to be done from here on out. I want to see that work happen in a proper way. And not just be wasted and nobody gets listened to. Because that's what we're asking. We all need to be good working partners together. Do that.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else in the audience today that wishes to speak for a minute with council? This is not a question and answer, Pete. It's purely a statement from yourself. There's no questions to council at this time.
Okay, well. Oh, yeah, okay. Well,
Please have a
Yeah.
seat, state your name for the record, and
okay,
make your statement.
I'm Logan Edward Panque. I just think it's kind of absurd that this deal was kind of made so quick. I think it was only on the table during a pandemic for a month or something. You guys decided to go through with it. Yeah, I just wonder why in this town it's a secret why price of public land is being sold for. And I'd just like to really know what that land was zoned for when it was sold and the money those guys are going to make off of it just by having an asset on that land, because that's some prime land.
Okay,
Best land in town.
thank you, sir. Are there any other citizens in the audience today? Councilor Race.
Thank you, sir. I think that was another prime example of where administration should get your name and the questions that you had, they could get back to you on. A lot of the questions you had were very valid and you didn't. You did, yeah. So if maybe administration can reach out to you and assist you in answering those questions.
Thank you, Councilor Race. Please, just a moment, ma'am, so we can turn on the microphone. Thank you. Up. Microphone. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Kate Cardinal. Welcome to our beautiful town, Mayor. Congratulations. I'm hearing quite a bit of misinformation out there, and I'm wondering if you would be so kind to clarify this new development, particularly the areas of the spending amounts and the ownership of the golf course. It was said that it is being built on public land, and then I was told otherwise. So there's quite a bit of misinformation out there. So it'd be really nice to see a publication in The Voice or the like, you know, to set us all straight and show us the direction this is going to take. There, as well as what are the steps remaining in this purchase and takeover, you know, It's understood that there may still be a subdivision and the land sale has not yet occurred. There's also a great deal of concern about job losses. So should this project be approved and completed, it would be really nice to see a commitment from the PAR 99 Corporation, as well as Oscar International and their Guru Learning Institute founders, to ensure that there is employment for local people as well as education seats for us. All right. I'd like to see at least a minimum percentage commitment across the board in that matter, you know. That would be wonderful. I guess since I can't ask, I had a number of questions, but I guess I'll have to call in and ask those. So, but that's pretty much it in a nutshell. I think we could use some more information on where we're at, where we're going, you know, and I understand that there has been some financial stress, and PAR 99, I believe, has the financial backing to pay for what is necessary, including this development of the advisor consultant for the golf course. So that's thank you so much for your time and have a great day.
Thank you, ma'am. And please make sure administration gets your information so we can get those answers to you. Anyone else in the audience today wishing to speak for a minute with council? Seeing nothing, administration, is there anyone online that wishes to speak for a minute with council?
There's none.
Thank you. That brings us to item 5 of our agenda today, delegations and presentations, and item 5.1, protect your assets, presented by Shiloh, Fragomeni, and Shirley Caputo.
Well, good afternoon, Mayor and Council. We are here to do a presentation on Protect Your Assets. And this is a program that was created in Hinton to bring awareness to frauds and scams that are targeting older adults in the community. My name is Shirley Caputo, and I've lived in this community for 35 years. And by joining this committee, it's also an awareness for our citizens in this community.
And as many of you know, I am Staff Sergeant Shiloh Fragomeni with the Hinton RCMP. I am here part of this project as well in Hinton because I find it's a very important project to bring awareness to the frauds and scams that our residents are subject to. Our hopeful outcome of this project is to decrease the number of adults in our community who are negatively impacted, both financially and emotionally, by the frauds and the scams, and both which are very life-altering effects on our victims as well as their families. On the slide, you'll see that I have a number of stats from the Anti-Fraud Center, where they've received 62,000 reports of frauds in 2023, victims of fraud of 49,000, and a loss of almost $500 million in fraud. So that's Canada alone. These are more specific to our town. In 2023, we had 99 reports of frauds. I've broken them down into 4 categories, 52 of them associated to banking, 7 associated to cryptocurrency, 10 gift card frauds, and 30 were others that didn't fit in that category, with a total loss of $586,000 in loss, and that's just in our town of Hinton. Those 4 categories, I've broken them up under banking for fraudulent e-transfers, bank drafts, checks, and charges on credit cards, as well as deposits left on vehicles that were not true. Cryptocurrency involves investments that cannot be retrieved or payments in form of cryptocurrency. Gift cards, where a victim is told to buy gift cards in order to repay debt, help with an investigation or Amazon issues. The other category, I found files involving extortion, hotel and food frauds, paving scams, identity fraud.
So the objectives of this project is to do an awareness of types of scams, tips on prevention, and suggestions on what to do if it happens to you. Now, the PYA, and that's the acronym for Protect Your Assets Group. And may I say also too, is that we also have some members in our audience here that are also part of that committee too. The PYA group will provide awareness on the types of scams and tips on how one can protect themselves from falling victim to a fraud or a scam.
Councillor Ostashik.
Sorry to interrupt. My apologies, Mr. Mayor. There's some side conversations happening in the gallery that are distracting. They're not exactly quiet. If we could please ask the gallery to try and keep that to a minimum so we can focus on the presentation, please.
Thank you, Councillor Ostashik. Yes, for the audience, please maintain order and quiet decorum as the delegation continues. Please continue, Ms. Caputo.
So what we're going to also do is we're going to have tips on how one can provide themselves from falling victim to a fraud or scam, and suggestions on steps to take if they do fall victim to a fraud or a scam. So about the program. And this was made possible with funding from New Horizons for Seniors Grant Program applied for by FCSS. And the intention of bringing information and awareness of frauds and scams to older adults, their family members, and other members in the community. And this was developed through collaborative efforts of Hinton FCSS, RCMP, Hinton Victim Services, and the dedicated volunteers. And that would be the Protect Your Assets, and we're called champions. Also, the funding for the project came from a successful grant application made by FCSS to the federally sponsored New Horizons for Senior Grant Program applied for in the spring of 2023. Project fund equated to $15,865 with a completion date of March the 30th, 2024. FCSS applied for this grant funding in response to the growing number of older adults in our community who have been victimized through frauds and scams. The project is a collaboration between Hinton FCSS, and they're the project lead, the Hinton RCMP, Victim Services, and a Seniors Working Group. There are 7 volunteers who are referred to as PYA champions who will actively participate in facilitating awareness presentations to other groups in our community.
Just give me a moment. I believe we have a question. Okay. Thank you. Carry on.
Hinton FCSS, along with the RCMP and Victim Services, will continue to support and Protect Your Assets project long-term as a community strategy to prevent victimization of seniors and other age demographics in our community. Okay, what the volunteers do. They share information and awareness of types of frauds and scams through presentations. And they share possible prevention tips, and they share suggestions on what to do if it happens. These champions volunteer their time to bring awareness to individuals and groups of community members with 3 objectives in mind: sharing information and awareness of types of frauds and scams, sharing possible prevention tips, sharing suggestions on what to do if it happens. And the PYA volunteers will provide a short, concise PowerPoint presentation deliverable within 20 to 30 minutes, as well as provide takeaway material about common types of frauds and scams.
So as we all know, March is Fraud Prevention Month. So PYA will be presenting at the following places. We have a number of other presentations, but these were the ones that are scheduled currently. So we have Hinton Continuing Center, Bridges, Lions Manor, Pine Valley, Alberta Works, Help, and then the Legion, which will be an evening presentation. Many are not-for-profit groups, which bring awareness to not only older adults in our community, but also provide information to those who we work closely with in the town. The more people that PYA is able to reach out to and share this information and awareness, the more residents we can protect and assist them to protect themselves as well as loved ones against the frauds and scams. Let it be known that the presentation at the Legion is in the evening from 6:30 till 8 in hopes to catch those who are busy during the day. We just want to thank you guys for allowing us to present to your group and provide you with an overview of the program. We'll open it up to any questions that you may have in regards to the program or the information that's been provided to you today.
Thank you, Staff Sergeant. Councillor Hawes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. And it's a valuable, I think, tool for our communities. This is a day and age. There's a lot of fear on identity and, of course, taken advantage of on that fear. I'm just wondering, I respect the fact that seniors is a target, but I'm wondering younger people as well, because it's not just seniors that are affected by this, but I think that, you know, these are very ingenious criminals that find different ways to take advantage of people of all ages. Anybody that has a phone, everybody has an email. We see it all the time. You know, it's not no longer just viruses. When you open it up, it's getting information. So I'm just curious, is the program potentially able to expand to different age categories in our communities, maybe workplaces, things of that nature? You know, because I think that they prey on all, you know, and it's just not, and sometimes, you know, you catch people off, you know, and think they're doing the right thing or whatever. And next thing you know, they're a victim of that. So I'm just curious if that's the idea of this program or if it's just seniors because of the grant. That's, I guess, the question.
Staff Sergeant Fragomeni.
The Mayor to Councillor Hawes. We also had the same question. In March, it is Fraud Prevention Month. We are, our focus for these presentations are for the older population, but we're hoping that the information is funneled through our community, through our presentations. In regards to what will happen to the program after March 30th, which is the time that the grant needs to be used by, Protect Your Assets groups will continue beyond March 30th deadline for the expenditure of the grant money. The project will be complete, but the program will continue through FCSS support for the seniors working group and continuation of ensuring that the Protect Your Assets awareness material is presented to community groups on an ongoing basis. So to answer your question, we're hoping to continue with the program and expand it to, it's a little harder to reach the other groups, but as we all know, they will continue to find their victims. And we're just hoping to provide that awareness so that we have less and less victims of such crimes.
Just one follow-up of me. Thank you for that. I guess, has there been any consideration to potentially doing the presentation via Facebook video and sharing that, you know, because there seems to reach a sector. I mean, it's just video seems to attract more awareness other than just a printout or readout of it. So I'm just wondering if it, and I'm not suggesting, just if it's a consideration potentially to reach more people, especially the tips, especially the, you know, what to look out for, how to protect yourself. You know, if it's not even just that part of it, but again, just a thought to throw out there, because I just think reaching a more bigger population would be helpful. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hawes. Staff Sergeant Fragomeni.
Through the Mayor to Councillor Hawes, excellent idea, and I will for sure take that back with me to FCSS. We've received such positive reviews already, and it's not even March, and the presentations haven't even started. So thank you for the idea, and we'll make sure that that gets broadcast. Thank you.
Councillor Chambers.
Through the Mayor, thank you very much for the presentation. I think working in the seniors field, this is definitely invaluable. To be bringing something like this into the sites where people live. I like the list that you have, places that you're visiting. I think that's excellent. And I think as well, not just for the seniors, but those that are involved in the care, for them to be able to answer the questions, for them to be able to maybe pick up on things, pick up on conversations. I was kind of astounded by the $500,000, honestly, of fraud in Hinton. That surprised me. You know, but definitely being in the industry, we do hear of it a lot. I think this is great. I guess my one question is, so the money that you got from the New Horizons seniors program, that was kind of specific for the development of this, and then you plan to continue to use it operationally? Because I think you can't apply year after year for that? Don't you have to have a gap year in between for the New Horizons funding? Like, was it more for the creation of it, but operationally it's going through FCSS? Is that correct?
Staff Sergeant.
Mayor to Councillor Chambers. Excellent question. Our Shirley Sitar would have the amount of information in regards to the grant. She's the spearhead to the project. We are forever thankful for the amount of time and effort that she's put into this project to get the grant money, to canvass the volunteers. So she would have much more information in regards to going forward with further grant money.
Good, thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Chambers. Councillor Taylor.
Does this program address telephone scams? Is one of the things you hear about is when it comes to telephone solicitation, is what you should or should not say on the phone when somebody phones you and you don't really know who they are, that sort of thing. Like even if you say the word yes, you might have said something bad, right? So what to say or how to do when you get somebody on the phone that you don't know to protect yourself?
Ms. Caputo.
Through the mayor to Councillor Taylor, the presentation that we did today here is going to be different than the presentation that's going to be done to the groups that we're going to be presenting to, and in their information for them. You know what to hear and that kind of stuff, and you speak about telephones too and everything. So that would be their presentations.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Race.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say I did attend one of your sessions, found it was invaluable. I love the interaction between us and the presenters. There was food, and old people all love food. So I would highly recommend it, not just for us old people, but for anyone. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Race. Ms. Caputo.
So if there are no further questions, we have left a PYA bag for each of you with some brochures about the program with administration to share with the mayor and councillors at the end of the meeting. The items in the bag are what will be given out at the presentation so that attendees can refer to our further inquiries that they have that this program is going to be providing. Thank you again, and I hope to see you at one of the presentations in March. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Caputo and Staff Sergeant Fragomeni.
Mr. Mayor, if I could.
CL.
I believe Ms. Bouchard had an answer to Ms. Chambers' question.
Oh, fantastic. Please go ahead, Ms. Bouchard.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to respond through to the mayor. So the $15,000 for the New Horizons was to be seniors focused. So that's why the project focuses on the seniors, 55 plus. But as we move forward, since we have the package of the project, we will continue to deliver the program with the working group through the family life portfolio. So again, just as this is a need in the community, so we pick that up and we'll continue it. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Bouchard. Council, anything further from the delegations? Seeing nothing, we'll move to section 6 of our agenda, closed session. Council. Councillor Haas.
I'd like to move that we go into closed session, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Council, the motion on the floor is to move into closed session. Any discussion? Seeing nothing, we'll call the question that council move into closed session at 4:44 p.m. Councillors, please vote now. Councillor Taylor voting by hand in favor, and that motion carries unanimously. For those of you in the audience today, we do have a short closed session where we're going to talk about item 6.1, and then we will be back Thank you. And this regular council meeting for February 6th, 2024 will reconvene at 4:53 PM. And we are on Section 7 of our agenda, action items, item 7.1, Hinton Municipal Library Board appointment. CAO Panasiuk.
Thank you, Mayor. We are recommending that council appoints Amanda Waworski to the Town of Hinton Library Board until the 2024 organizational meeting.
Thank you, CAO Panasiuk. Council. Councillor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move that council appoints Amanda Warski to the Town of Hinton Library Board until the 2024 organizational meeting. I can quickly speak to it.
Go ahead.
Being a representative on that board, happy to have Amanda. She was a member and her time had come up, but thankfully, not thankfully, we've lost one member. And so Amanda's was able to fill that position. So we're happy to have her. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. So council, the motion on the floor is that council appoints Amanda Waworski to the Town of Hinton Library Board until the 2024 organizational meeting. Any discussion? Seeing nothing, we'll call the question. Councillors, please vote now. And that motion carries unanimously. Councillor Taylor.
We can't underestimate the importance of these boards and people that are on them. They deal in this particular case with hundreds of thousands of dollars, operating money, capital money, reserves, reserve policy, and we've seen during the budget process how we interact with that. So having good quality people on these boards is of high importance, and all these positions are important. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Council, anything further for item 7.1? Moving on to item 7.2, council appointment to the Destination Management Organization, CAO Panasiuk.
Thank you, Mayor. I will turn this over to Ms. Juke.
Thank you, and through the mayor to the rest of council. This matter was referred from the January 23rd Committee of the Whole meeting, where the Destination Management Organization Society presented and requested that council consider appointing a member of council to the DMO in a non-voting seat. And you will recall that that is one of two municipal non-voting seats, the other being reserved for Yellowhead County. During the committee debate, Councillor Stashik expressed an interest in the appointment, and this dovetails with the group's aims to seek an appointee with interest in the business community or in the visitor economy. The requirements for the appointee will be typically one meeting a month, September through May. Subsequent to that meeting, Councillor Chambers' name was brought forward as the appointed alternate as a suggestion for that. And so with that, I'll take any questions that you may have about the organization.
Thank you, Ms. Duke. Council. Councillor Taylor.
Do you have any information on this organization about the benefits of the organization in objective terms, like dollar for dollar returns on money they take in, dollars spent equals what sort of return, what sort of percentage of occupancy increased occurs when these DMOs go ahead, or any other kind of objective measurements of how the money on these things, because we're talking millions of dollars get spent and the returns that come from it. And I'm thinking that it shouldn't be that hard to have that kind of information, because we have these DMOs and DMFs all over the place. So there should be good quantification of those kind of numbers available.
Ms. Duke, do you have anything to add?
So through the mayor to the rest of council, I don't have any hard and fast information of that nature at this meeting. The Destination Management Organization did present at the Committee of the Whole meeting and presented some information about their aims for 2024. And I can also just describe to you that the Destination Management Fund that will be developed and administered by this group is funded from member organizations collecting that amount of money from visitors that come into town through the hotels and the restaurants that participate. So other than that, I'm afraid at this moment I can't provide any more information. However, that can be sought if council so wishes.
Thank you, Ms. Duke. Councillor Taylor, any follow-up?
No, they didn't provide that sort of quantification at their presentation either. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move that council appoints Councillor Alberta Stashik and Councillor Kristen Chambers as alternate to the Hinton's Destination Management Organization Society for the term of February 6, 2024 to October 15, 2024 inclusive. And if I may speak to it.
Please.
You know, I'm in favor of having a counselor appointed to this, even though it's a non-voting member. You know, being at that table, having input, listening to the input from others, also being able to bring back information to all of council administration, I think is beneficial. You know, also too, I think, you know, we have invested as a town in some seed money to get this going. So I think it's important that we have a counselor at that table. So I'm in favor of these two. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Council, the motion on the floor is that council appoints Councillor Alberta Stashik and Councillor Kristen Chambers as alternate to Hinton's Destination Management Organization Society for the term February 6th, 2024 to October 15th, 2024 inclusive. Councillor Taylor.
My comments on this project are I'm not completely sold on the concept of charging fees or taxes for a marketing plan, where I haven't seen the direct benefit cost analysis of how these work. We've got all sorts of examples of these fees, Alberta, across Canada, where the fees and how the fees contribute to a definable return that justifies the millions of dollars that are collected. Because basically we are taking these fees from taxpayer dollars, visitors' pockets, but still taxpayer dollars. So the dollar for dollar return, the percent occupancy increases. If you spend $1 million, what sort of return do you get? And you know, even something as simple, if it's such a good thing, will some of the seed money be returned back to council that we've presented? So that's the sort of justification I would need to see to support this, even to support a council appointment. That being said, I mean, I hope the project is successful, and I don't wish it a lack of success. It's just I haven't seen those numbers in the presentations where I've sat through. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Race.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will totally be supporting this motion. I think it's so important that we have someone sitting on that committee, someone who's listening and can report back to us. We've had other committees where council has been taken off that committee. We have no interaction anymore. We don't know what's going on, and this to me is vital. So I'll support it.
Thank you, Councillor Race. Councillor Stashik.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To some of the points that Councillor Taylor brought forward, I think those are all legitimate points. They're legitimate questions. I don't think at this point, though, anybody has the answers to them. If this motion passes, though, I'm happy to bring any information that I can get from the DMO back during council reporting. Happy to report that information to council. One thing I did want to point out, though, in speaking to this, I've heard a couple people say we, and I just want to clarify for anybody who might be listening, this is not a town tax. This is not a municipal tax. The DMO is an independent organization that isn't at all connected to the town. It's made up of the hospitality industry providers in Hinton, and they are the ones who are instituting this. And it's a voluntary fee that they charge and they use to fund. The plan is to use it to fund a destination marketing fund that can be used to promote activities and events that happen in our region to draw tourism into the region. I just wanted to clarify it's not a town initiative and it's not a town tax. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stashik. Councillor Taylor.
Right, and that's good. We didn't have to vote to make this mandatory, so when somebody comes and a visitor comes and wants to get the money returned, they will be able to ask and have the money returned. So it is a fee in that extent. The extent that it turns into a tax will be when they have difficulty getting the money back. Because you hear about people asking for money back for these kind of things and they don't get the money back. And then that's where it becomes more of a tax than a fee. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Haas.
Just a quick comment. We're not here to debate the DMO organization. We're here to put a counselor on there, if I may. And I think for all those reasons, it just solidifies my support for this, is because if there are questions, as Councillor Stashik said, counselors can bring back to it. But I mean, the fact of the matter is the DMO is in existence. It's moving forward. It's got wheels under it now, and I want to have this would be part of that conversation at the table. So, if I may, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Council, anything further? Seeing nothing, we'll call the question. The council appoints Councillor Alberto Stashik and Councillor Kristen Chambers as alternate to Hinton's Destination Management Organization Society for the term February 6th, 2024 to October 15th, 2024 inclusive. Councillors, please vote now. And that motion is carried 5-1 with Councillor Taylor voting against. Council, is there anything further for item 7.2 on the agenda? Seeing nothing, we'll move to item 7.3, Town Appointed Golf Professional Advisor, CEO Panasiuk.
Thank you, Mayor. I will turn this over to Mr. Russo.
Wonderful to see you right in front of us, Mr. Russo.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good evening, Council. Thank you for the opportunity. This item that is before you was presented to you on January the 23rd at the Committee of the Whole meeting. And we basically told Council about back in December the 19th, you've asked us to go and look for professionals that could look after the golf course in terms of the design that is on the table, and to look at what the impacts of that it would be, and to then come back and look at whether those impacts are indeed up to standard, what is the impacts to the golf course, and what are the mitigating factors and the improvements as the EOI stated in that first paragraph. So tonight what you have before you is that we've narrowed it down. We've had 3 interviews with 3 different golfing professionals, all very competent people. In terms of the objective, in terms of the scope that we've given them on the teams meetings we've had, we've come down that we've had 3 organizations. The first organization, we called it number 1, and to the name of that organization would be Lob and Partner, and organization 2 would be Padicom, and then organization 3 would be Carrick Design. Based on the evaluation of what we received back as administration, as discussed at the Committee of the Whole, the COW meeting, we have recommended that Council consider organization 1 would be Padicom or Lob and Partner, my apology. So if there are any questions, I'd be happy to elaborate on them.
Councillor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make the motion that council directs administration to engage organization 1 to become the golf professional advisor for the town of Hinton using the Future Development Entrepreneurial Reserve funding at the upset estimated amount of $22,500. And if I could speak to it.
Go ahead.
So first and foremost, I guess I'd like to make a comment on the amount of dollars, and there's been some comments this evening. My understanding is the dollars that were spent were to look at what is not going to work, but not the solutions to it. And we're looking for a fulsome organization that may look at what is not necessarily going to work, and then coming up with solutions in conjunction with the developer and other parties as well. So that, I think, is vital. And if we were to, in my opinion, have done this before zoning, may have been a waste of our funding, because if we didn't rezone it, it would have been a moot point. Now that we've moved forward with rezoning, it's just best practice. This is a town asset. It is, we have to look out for the best interest of that town asset and the golf course. So having this expert that is contracted by the town has our best interests in mind and work with administration, the developer, and through that development permits or development stages. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hawes. Councillor Ostashik.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Question to administration, if I may. Administration, can you explain what some of the benefits are in the town contracting an independent golf advisor as the proposed project moves from concept through the development phase?
Mr. Rousseau.
To the Chair, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Stashik. So there are numerous benefits or highlight things that would be highlighted. The first would be that if you look at the design that was proposed by Part 999, the days of the open house, they would be looking at deep dive into that to see what there are three concerns that were listed. The one was the long walk, second was the safety aspect for errant balls, and the third was the flow of golf in terms of the sort of impacting the golf itself, losing hole 16. They would look at that and come back to us and say, well, the golf is impacted, for argument's sake, this is a proposed approach to this. This therefore satisfies 2 out of the 3 or 3 out of the 3. So that's the one benefit or several benefits to that. They will give us a summary impact to what the proposed design of the day could morph into, which could be amenable to all parties, meaning the enhancement of the project or the inclusion of the project enhances the golf. Then further to that, in terms of this proposal from Organization 1, they would also look at the future of certain of the shortcomings of our existing golf course, meaning they'd be able to advise what type of capital dollars may have to be injected to help complement the frontage, the development itself, plus our existing golf course, because there are some challenges. In chatting with the golf director recently, he's highlighted a few things that would be coming to council's attention. So I think that from the phase 1 would give us all the answer in terms of how to address the 3 issues and what are the mitigating or the potential solutions that could look quite different to what the proposal was on the wall. And the third part or the second part to that would be we'd be able to look at our golf course with an objective go forward capital enhanced plan that will help us to have a golf course that matches the front development and the front development matches our golf.
I could ask a follow-up, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, please.
So following up on that, then how are the recommendations and reporting that the independent golf advisor brings to administration, how are they incorporated and used to reflect the outcomes through the development permitting process?
Mr. Rousseau.
So through to the Chair, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Stashik. At this point, I would not know what that outcomes would be, but let's assume the outcomes are quite different to what the proposal is. Then those would be items that they would list that is key for the town to include going forward in a DA, a development agreement. So we would be asking, what would the advice be to us based on the changes and the impacts?
Sorry, one more follow-up, if I may, just
Please.
for clarification. So then those recommendations, if accepted by administration and becoming part of the development agreement, those become conditions that are incumbent on the developer at that point. Is that correct?
At that point, dependent on what is in the sale agreement, that those would be matching up with those conditions, correct?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Stashik. Councillor Chambers.
Thank you, Mayor. I will be speaking very strongly in favor of this. I understand that there's a seemingly hefty price tag that goes along with this, but looking at where we're at, I think we've got looking at the town, looking at Par 999, looking at the golf course, having somebody that can come in and be that kind of, whether you're called neutral third party, to come in with that expert eye. The other thing that concerns me is, we're not very far away from the next election. And while none of us sitting up here are golf experts, if there's a large change in council or different agreements, I think it's very wise to have somebody that is advising from that higher level to keep that consistency, to be able to explain why we've gotten to certain places, what that looks like. And I think somebody whose job it is to make sure that they're understanding and listening to all 3 parties, the developer, the golf club, and the town administration and council as well. So I think this is a really good way to hopefully start to address some of those concerns as you brought up. I think it gives us a lot of surety in knowing that some of these questions will hopefully be answered going forward, and that we'll still have a bit of say in understanding that the future of the golf course, the playability, all those things that, you know, we've given it that deep dive from the independent side of things. I think that's important. So I certainly speak in favor of this, and I'm quite excited to get that going.
Thank you, Councillor Chambers. Councillor Taylor.
Why are we asking for 22,500 when the consultant indicated 16,000 something?
Mr. Rousseau.
To the chair, to Councillor Taylor, the reason we're asking for 22 is because the 16,200 has been the quotation we got for the scope that I alluded to a moment ago for phase 1 and 2. If we leave it at 16.2 and there's a potential creep on it, then we as administration have the ability to spend up to 22,000 without having to come back to council, and which could potentially then delay. But as far as we're concerned, the 16.2 is not a fixed lump sum amount. It is the best summary amount of what they understood the scope to be.
Okay,
follow up.
I have a different question. I can wait.
Please wait.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Race.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, to administration. So should this move forward, when would the review commence and how long do you anticipate the review?
Mr.
Through
Rousseau.
the chair to Councillor Race, the review would begin immediately. So if we get approval this evening, we'd be giving the go ahead tomorrow morning. And then we will have a first kickoff meeting, and that would give them a week to collaborate and get all the information from us. And then they would need 4 to 6 weeks to be able to do the reconnaissance and the review and come back to us and talk to administration, and then eventually get a report that we can share with council.
Thank you, Mr. Rousseau. Follow up.
Yes, thank you. So we will get all that information before the development agreement is put in place?
Mr. Rousseau.
Through the chair, that would be correct, Councillor Race.
Okay. And we get the development agreement prior to a development permit?
Through the chair again to Councillor Race, that would be correct. However, council will be shared the details of the DA, but you will not be participating to dictate the DA.
Okay, good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Rousseau. Thank you, Councillor Race. Councillor Chambers.
Thank you, Mayor, through the mayor. Just one question for clarity. So as part of this 4 to 6 week period, it would be meeting with the Hinton Golf Club Society members, as well as reviewing some of the information that they proposed, as well as meeting with the developer and yourselves, that all 3 groups would be consulted as part of that?
Mr. Rousseau.
The chair to Councillor Chambers. Yes, the idea is to have the working group that we've established late last year to be part of this exercise, as well as the developers, professionals to be part of this. So that at the end of the day, when we come up with a report, it is a walk through exercise. We've had all the key stakeholders that had to have input to it. So at the end of the day, we want to have seamless approach going forward. And those would be the details that would then be encompassed and encapsulated into the DA development agreement.
Councillor Taylor.
Golf Society president, when he talked about the project to me, I think it was in December, indicated that their expert had cost $1,000. Our expert is in the $16,000 to $22,000 range. Can you explain why there is a difference in price?
Mr. Rousseau.
The chair to Councillor Taylor, not being privy to what their scope was to their golfing expert, I can't compare the two to say, oh, the one is 116% more. What I can say is that they probably asked for an opinion. We're asking for a deep dive and an evaluation of even future capital improvements that may be necessitated through this change that we are proposing on the golf course. So I think unless I see their scope, I can say that they got a bargain or their scope was very limited. And that's my professional judgment, that they probably had an opinion given to them other than a deep dive.
Thank you.
Any follow-up, Councillor Taylor? Okay. Councillor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to clarify too, as I heard, the report will come back to council, which will be a public, in public discussed. The public will see that report and the results of the golf architect. Is that correct?
Mr. Rousseau.
Through the chair to Councillor Haas, that is correct. It will be shared with council, and we'll may even have the golfing professional there to add more details to it because I'm not a golfing expert, and that's why council has elected that. Let's get somebody that knows what they're doing in this area.
Excellent. If I can follow up,
Please.
there was some concerns of it not being transparent, so that it's refreshing that we will see that, everyone will see that report.
Correct.
So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Councillor Taylor.
It's not a question. I'm voting in favor of this. I'm just speaking for why I voting in favor. Currently, we have two different professionals who've given us different opinions, one from the Golf Society and one from the proponent. The Golf Society's opinion, according to what administration has told me, was made before the proponent made changes to safety and hole design. I would like an independent, neutral expert who's properly resourced to assess things like safety, holes, playability. And further, the Golf Society recommended that we hire an independent expert in their December letter that they sent to us. So I think that was a sound recommendation. And unfortunately, like Councillor Chambers, I don't have the expertise. And the end results of this project are just too important not to do the work properly. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Council, anything further? Councillor Race.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To administration, can you tell us who makes up the group of people who will sit at the table? Like there's the golf, who sits at that table?
Mr. Rousseau.
Chair to Councillor Rice. So as the working group, I'll just talk about the working group first. So the working group right now comprises of the director of golf, the chairperson, Brad himself, and then of course the developer itself with their professional team, meaning Part 999.
Mr. Rousseau, just to clarify, you mean the president of the Hinton Golf Association?
That's correct, yeah.
Correct.
That's correct. And then Part 999's professional team with their CEO has been, and then of course administration, myself and Debbie Weber, who's part of the strategic team. And so that would be the team, whoever the consultant is we select tonight, if that's where we're going, would then lead the charge with that working group. That means the Golfing Society is fully apprised, the administration is apprised and working together. So is Part 999 giving input when needed. And then, of course, we'll summarize that report and it comes back to council for further deliberation.
Thank you, Mr. Rousseau. Councillor Race, follow up?
Thank you, sir.
Council, anything further? Seeing nothing, we'll call the question that council directs administration to engage Councillor Taylor. Okay.
Sorry, I made a mistake. Can you clear the voting? My paper was on here and as I was making notes, I pressed against there. Didn't mean to press against.
Thank you, administration.
Well, it says against again. I'm in favor. Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, we'll call the question that council directs administration to engage Organization 1 to become the golf professional advisor for the town of Hinton using the Future Development Entrepreneurial Reserve funding at the upset estimated amount of $22,500. Councillors, please vote now. And that motion carries unanimously. Council, anything further for item 7.3? Councillor Taylor.
I don't know if I could do this, but if I could, I'd sure appreciate it. Mr. Russo, could you confirm that my number of about $51,000 for the golf course operating loan is accurate as of January 11th, 2024? Please?
Mr. Russo, are you at all prepared to answer that question at this time? Okay, go ahead.
So as of the date you've just mentioned, that was correct.
Thank you.
And the number that was reflected this evening is indeed correct too as of today.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's changed. Now.
that's right.
Okay,
It's not
excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Russo. Councillor Ostashik.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And if I could ask for your indulgence, this is a matter that is related to the golf course professional, although distantly. Some of the questions that were brought forward by citizens today during Minute with Council, there are answers to them available And I would appreciate if administration could get those answers to them, but also too, for anybody that does have any questions, a lot of the questions are answered on the town's website. If you go to the town website, hinton.ca, and just go in the search bar and put FAQ, you will get a link to a town FAQ. If you click on that link and then scroll down to the point where it says, sorry, bear with me for 1 second. PAR 999 Holdings Inc. Proposed Development. There's a whole bunch of frequently asked questions there with responses on behalf of the town. So that's a good resource for people, and I'd like to direct them there to take a look to see if their questions are answered there. Also too, they have questions, they're certainly welcome to submit them through Hinton Listens or direct counsel at council@hinton.ca. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ostashik. Council, anything further for item 7.3? Councillor Race.
So I kind of want to follow up on what Councillor Stashik was saying. So for people who it's a better option if they can speak one-on-one with an administrative person. How long would it take admin, should they phone in? How long would it take administration to set up a phone call and get back to them? I don't know who can answer that.
CEO Panasiuk.
Through the mayor to members of council, typically a day or two if nobody picks up on the first, on the first call. I guess it all depends on, the availability of the staff, but typically it's relatively quick.
Okay, good. And just in closing, I have to tell you how much I appreciate you coming up there and sitting. For anybody who's hearing impaired, this just means the world. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Russo.
Just as a follow-up from Councillor Stashik and Councillor Race, there's also when Part 999 was here, they also extended the option of contacting them directly, and then details were given in full council. And the reason I bring that up is that we are not here to sell the project. We're here to give you details as the administration. So if you really want to know specifics, you could also ask them. This way, we as administration, we can answer certain questions, but they understand their business model and they can probably shed more light. So I wanted to just bring that to the top so that the community can exercise that option.
Thank you, Mr. Rousseau. Council, anything further for item 7.3? Seeing nothing, we'll move on to item 7.4, Cemetery Bylaw number 1183, first reading. CEO Panasiuk.
Thank you, Mayor. I will turn this over to Ms. Juke.
Thank you. And through the mayor to the rest of council, cemetery functional area in the town is a multi-departmental area collaboration. At least 3 departments are functioning there to bring cemetery services to the town of Hinton. So community services presenting this, but by no means are we the only department that is involved in cemetery services. So as part of its ongoing initiative to renew and update bylaws, administration presents a draft new cemetery bylaw to replace Bylaw 796, which was first enacted 37 years ago. Cemetery services are multi-departmental, as I mentioned, and to date, the periodic updates to Bylaw 796 were done by corporate services only, and were only done to the fees Schedule A, as needed to increase fees over the course of the many years that it's been in place. Though archaic, the Bylaw 796 is still very functional. So Bylaw 1183 presented today replicates the provisions in 796 almost entirely, but with, of course, updated and clarified language and a little reorganizing. Bylaw 1183 also introduces a few new provisions which have developed in the cemetery industry over the many decades. And these are primarily as follows. There are allowances now for current burial trends, such as green burials. There are some accommodations for religious and cultural burial and monument needs. There is a new enforcement section and a short fine schedule to address the occasional contraventions that do occur. And there are 2 other new schedules providing, for example, some statement of the record keeping requirements the town has with regards to its cemetery. Administration has noted a few typos. I think the public has brought that forward as well in the draft bylaw before you today. Those will be rectified before the bylaw is further considered or could be amended. The bylaw could be also given first reading as amended. And we'll take care of those small typos. So administration is recommending first reading today. And with that, I'll take any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Ms. Duke. Council. Councillor Race.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To administration, should this move forward, will the gates be locked on the closed times?
CEO Panasiuk or Ms. Duke.
But currently, it's not the practice of administration operations to close and lock the gates at night. I don't believe we have staffing available to do that at the time that that would take place. It's simply a matter that the cemetery is closed to the public during those times that are in the bylaw. And that's simply to reduce the potential for vandalism or any other activities that are undesirable in the cemetery.
And I have one more, please.
Please.
Was there any consideration given to having a small section of the cemetery to incorporate a scattering of ashes?
Ms. Duke.
So thank you for the question. I'm afraid I can't answer that. I don't know what the protocols are for scattering of ashes in the cemetery. I don't believe there is a formalized area that's set aside yet, as you're mentioning. So no, that isn't in place at this time, but that certainly is a consideration we can bring forward to the next consideration of the bylaw.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Duke. Thank you, Councillor Race. Councillor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Maybe this is but I'm going to ask it anyway. Councillor Race brought up a good point and about the access. Question to another bylaw that's coming to us. Would that potentially fall under the parks bylaw that we're going to be discussing next week? That area, no, it's not a park, but we've had numerous complaints, numerous concerns of, people in that area. And it's wouldn't be covered, but is that a consideration that administration is looking at for another bylaw, or is that something that should be put into this bylaw?
Ms. Duke.
So I think if I understand your question, you're asking if the two will coincide. And that is probably going to be important to make sure that we bring that forward so that there's not different regulations in different areas. However, cemeteries are not parks, as you're mentioning. They are set aside areas that are to be maintained in a dignified manner and an orderly manner as required by the province under regulation. So the cemetery is a special place, and we want to make sure that it is, there is preventions in place for such things as vandalism and theft. So yes, so the closure provisions are primarily for that. I did consult with the Parks Department and the Bylaw Department. We are not seeing a lot of contraventions that are reported or damage that's experienced in the cemetery at night. So I don't believe it's a big issue, but we do want to have some enforcement of provisions, and that's why you have a fine schedule now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Duke. Councillor Chambers.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make the motion that council give first reading to the draft cemetery bylaw number 1183. I'd like to make it as amended with the typos and refer the matter to a future meeting of council. And if I may speak to it, I think it was an interesting read. But I like the modernization of it. I think it makes sense going forward, and happy to support the first reading.
Thank you, Councillor Chambers. So council, the motion on the floor is that council gives first reading to the draft cemetery bylaw number 1183 as amended and refers the matter to a future meeting of council. Council, any discussion? Seeing nothing, we'll call the question. The council gives first reading to the draft cemetery bylaw number 1183 as amended and refers the matter to a future meeting of council. Councillors, please vote now. And that motion carries unanimously. And I must say, the original bylaw that this is replacing was very difficult to read in its degraded state. Council, anything further for item 7.4? Seeing nothing, we'll move on to item 7.5, golf course additional land investigation. And before these next two discussions, I will remind council that we are doing our strategic planning session at the end of the month, and land acquisition is on the agenda for that discussion. Councillor Haas.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. in the fact that the Councillor Magoon, who brought this forward, is not present this evening, I would be obliged to make a motion to postpone this discussion until the next regular, which is February 20th, if the rest of council agrees.
Thank you, Councillor Hawes. So you're making that motion?
The motion to postpone, yes.
Thank you. So Councillor, Council, the motion on the floor is a motion to postpone until the next regular meeting of council. Any discussion? Seeing nothing, we'll call the question. That council postpone until the next regular meeting of council, which apparently is February 20th, 2024. Council, please vote now. And that motion carries unanimously. Council, anything further for item 7.5? Seeing nothing, we will move to item 7.6, golf course capital improvement. CEO Panasiuk. You have anything to present on this one?
Thank you, Mayor Council. I don't have anything specific to discuss, but this was a notice of motion put forward by Councillor Stewart. So I will revert that to Councillor Stewart to speak to it.
Thank you, CAO. Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, the idea that came during the golf course discussions was the idea of both these ideas are kind of related, the golf course capital improvements and the golf course land sale. Golf course capital improvements, that a portion of the direct property revenues from any developments near the golf course be dedicated to a fund that will pay for capital improvements on the course. That's more of a long-term thing. Money wouldn't come in until year 3 or 4 because of the incentive program. More immediate would be the golf course sale. The idea is that the proceeds from any land sale from any development near the golf course would be directed to a reserve dedicated to the capital improvement of a golf course, something that could happen more immediately. So this came in during some of the discussions I had with people. And the idea is to slowly start improving the current state of the golf course into the future. This wouldn't be for operations. This would be for capital improvements. This wouldn't be for capital improvements related to this particular project. This would be for capital improvements related to just improving the golf course in future. And I guess anybody who knows the course knows that there's a few holes where improvements could occur to improve the play. And like I said, this idea doesn't affect the current project, as I expect the current project to stand on its own 2 feet when it comes to playability and the course design, the whole design. And this kind of fits in with a kind of fundamental belief that a golf course should be a financially viable entity. And I think, like I said, this proposal has two parts to it. The long-term aspect that should generate money from the direct property tax revenue in 3 to 5 years, where a portion of that could go towards the improvement of the golf course, and more short-term from the sale of the land, because the land is recreation land. So it seems appropriate that that would go back towards the golf course improvement. How we do this, I'm open to ideas on that. I don't have it all totally thought out. My sort of thought would be that administration would go and thrash out these ideas and come back with options and workable solutions, reasonable outcomes, and how we could do this sort of thing, what sort of portion would be appropriate. So that's my thinking on it. And I think these ideas support the long-term interests of both the golf and the citizens of Hinton, because it does provide, if the project does go ahead and we do get these significant revenues, direct property tax revenues, it does provide what could be a significant source of fund to fix things up for a long term without the taxpayer having to directly subsidize. It would come from the money related to the development. So I look forward to your ideas on whether you think this is a good idea and how to make it workable. I just have, like I said, the two proposals there that we direct a portion of it. Again, how we do it, I don't know exactly, but I think administration would want to thrash this out. Maybe we thrash it out in a strategic planning session. However, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Race,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Question to Councillor Taylor, if I may.
please.
And I don't know if you can answer this, but would the road, that very dusty, bumpy road leading to the golf course, would that fall under this?
Councillor Taylor.
Those are the kind of details that I think administration would have to iron out for us. Like, I don't know the exact answer to it, but capital improvements of that nature, capital improvements of upgrading the clubhouse, capital improvements of upgrading some of the holes on the golf course. They're a little bit bumpy. Those are all things that I would look forward to administration's recommendations on. I don't know exactly what this would fund or not fund. I don't have the expertise to flush that out.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Race, you have
If I
follow-up?
could put this to admin then.
Yes, please. CEO Panasiuk.
Through the mayor to members of council. So one thing I'll suggest is we are in the middle of doing an overhaul of all of our reserve policies. I see this as fitting well within that, to look at a specific reserve with golf, how that reserve is funded, with the intent of this notice of motion would be any developments on the golf course should have an underlying financial benefit to the golf course itself and into the capital improvements. So I see this integrating well with that work that we're doing on our reserve policies. We can certainly bring that as a policy forward to council. That would include some options if council would like to have a more in-depth discussion on this item, but I think it would fit well with the work that administration is currently doing.
Thank you, CEO Panasiuk. Follow-up, Councillor Race?
I do. So, CAO, would the road be considered part of the golf course?
CEO Panasiuk, and I believe she's specifically talking about the access road to the golf course. Yeah.
Yeah, through the mayor to members of council. How that looks can be ultimately up to council, right? If we want to consider that access road as eligible projects through this fund that we're discussing, we can certainly do that. But ultimately that would be directed by council on what assets we would like to fund out of that reserve, which ones we wouldn't. My assumption is that that would be an eligible project through this fund. It would be directly associated as an access road for that asset. So I don't see why we wouldn't, but ultimately council can make that determination.
Thank you, Councillor Race. Thank you, CEO Panasiuk. Councillor Ostashik.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is definitely something that I would be supportive of. I think there's no question that any development that happens on or adjacent or potentially adjacent to the golf course is going to have somewhat of an impact on the golf course itself. This gives an opportunity for any kind of developments like that happen there, for a portion of the tax revenue that comes off them to be able to be redirected back to the golf course to help improve it, to help update it, upgrade it. And this is a resource that is potentially going to be at our disposal to provide capital improvements that may not otherwise be supported by council. The unfortunate reality is there is a lot of competing priorities. And for me, a lot of them are higher priority than the golf course. As important as I think the golf course is in our community, I think water resources, rec center, a multitude of other things actually fall higher on the priority list than that. So if there's a dedicated capital improvement reserve, I think that's a great way to start it off and to be able to support the golf course and improving the golf course as we move forward. I do have a question for administration, though, if I may. This motion, as it's worded, though, is directing administration to just go ahead and take a portion of the property taxes. So if council was amenable to it, I would like to propose a friendly amendment to that council direct administration to bring a report regarding directing that a portion of direct property taxes revenues from any developments near the golf course be dedicated to a fund that will pay for capital improvements on the golf course to a future meeting of council. I think that accomplishes what Councillor Taylor was speaking to earlier about allowing administration the time and the opportunity to hash this out and bring options to us that we can consider. I think that's just a cleaner way to direct administration to achieve the end that I think Councillor Taylor wanted when he brought this forward.
Thank you, Councillor Stashik. And just to be clear, there was no actual motion on the floor, so your wording is the motion that we will be debating here. Is that?
Because this was a notice of motion, I think this actually is the motion that's being brought to council for a request for decision. Administration can certainly
That may be
clarify if I'm
correct.
mistaken.
CEO Panasic, can you clarify?
Through the mayor, it can be, the motion on the floor is not debatable, or we don't need to amend it until such time as it's brought to the floor. So if we want to propose an alternative amendment or an alternative wording to that meets the intent of the notice of motion, I'm fine with that. And I think that's appropriate.
If I could follow up then, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Stashik.
Appreciating that clarification, then if we could, I would like to bring the proposed wording that I just read into the record to the floor as a motion.
And can you just confirm that it is written correctly to your liking there, Councillor Stashik?
If we could just add to a future meeting of council at the end.
Thank you, Councillor Stashik.
Perfect.
Thank you.
I think I've already spoken to it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Stashik. So council, for clarity, the motion on the floor is that council direct administration to bring back a report that a portion of direct property taxes revenues from any developments near the golf course be dedicated to a fund that will pay for capital improvements on the golf course to a future meeting of council. Councillor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will be supporting this. I appreciate the Councillor Stashik's the report, and I know the Councillor Taylor alluded to that in the original notice of motion, but I think it's important that we have some options to us. You know, this is an area of an asset that we have not dedicated any funds to, and moving forward, now that it is an asset of the town, you know, it's important that we look at the future of that. So I'm in favor of hearing what options we have available. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Councillor Chambers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A lot of my comments have already been picked up on, but I think this is really important. I'll be speaking in favor of it as well, especially with the newly hired golf course expert creating that long-term plan. The plan's only good if we have money to fund it. And so, you know, we're already getting that work done. And I think that having an ability to continue to make this a priority to work within the parameters of what comes out of that report just makes good sense. So I think it goes hand in hand, and I'm happy to support it.
Thank you, Councillor Chambers. Councillor Race.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll certainly support this motion. However, should we specify that it comes back to a committee of the whole meeting? You know, like I would prefer it comes back to a committee of the whole and not regular. So is that something we could amend this motion to say?
If you would like to propose an amendment, Councillor, you may.
I'm just wondering, do we need that? Or when it comes up at an agenda planning session, can we put it to a standing?
CEO Panasic.
Through the mayor to members of council, I don't believe we need that amendment. You know, this will come back to council as promotion. But if it comes in the interim to a committee of the whole, that's normal practice to check in, discuss options. So it likely will go to both. But you know, this motion is just saying that this will be tabled in front of council in a formal council meeting for decision. We can certainly bring it back as per the direction of the agenda planning committee to committee of the whole. So I don't think it's necessary. I think we can achieve that intent.
Okay, good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, CEO Panasic. Thank you, Councillor Race. Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Ostashik, for the wording that better captures what I was trying to do. I did those original words a long time ago, so they're better words. My question is to administration. Does this wording give you flexibility to do what you said with respect to reserve policy, options, how the fund is managed, you know, the town's management of it, the Golf Society's management, all those kind of things that you would expect to see in something like that?
CEO Panasic.
Through the mayor to Councillor Stewart, I believe the intent is outlined is clear for us. Now, I think as administration, we need to go back. We need to build the necessary parameters and some recommendations that we can table for council for your consideration. But the motion as worded is clear with me, and I think it achieves that intent.
Thank you.
Thank you, CEO. Council, anything further? Seeing nothing, we will call the question that council direct administration to bring back a report that a portion of direct property taxes revenues from any developments near the golf course be dedicated to a fund that will pay for capital improvements on the golf course to a future meeting of council. Councillors, please vote now. And that motion carries unanimously. Councillor Hawes.
Sorry, just for clarification, our voting has the Councillor Taylor moved, but I believe it was Councillor Ostashik.
Thank you, Councillor Hawes, for noticing that. We could have the minutes fixed. Thank you. Anything further from council for item 7.6? Seeing nothing, we'll move to item 7.7, golf course land sale. And Councillor Taylor, this is your notice of motion again. Would you like to speak to it? Councillor Taylor.
Sure, I've spoken to it. This is a more immediate because you sell the land, it goes into the fund immediately. The last item only goes into the fund as the tax incentive bylaws progressive nature works. So the wording should probably be the same, similar to this one. That would be, if anybody can help me, that council direct administration to bring back a report that any land sale from any development near the golf course be directed to be dedicated to a fund that'll help pay for capital improvements on the golf course to a future meeting of council. And don't ask me to repeat that.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Did you get it? Almost. The council direct administration to bring a report
that any land sale from any development near the golf course be dedicated to a fund that will pay for capital improvements on the golf course to a future meeting of council. That's better than what I had. Thank you. What's that? Will be dedicated to a fund that will pay for capital improvements. On the golf course to a future meeting of council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. So council, the motion on the floor is that council direct administration to bring a report that any land sale from near the golf course be dedicated to a fund that will pay for capital improvements on the golf course to a future meeting of council. Councillor Ostashik.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just in the process or in the interest of smoothing out the motion, I think the words the proceeds in front of any land sale were missed in Counselor Taylor transcribing that over. The original motion was that the proceeds of any land sale, and I think those two words were just missed, I think.
Yes, thank you, Counselor Ostashik. I believe you are correct. Proceeds, yeah, from. Okay, so council, the motion is that council direct administration to bring a report that any proceeds from the land sale near the golf course be dedicated to a fund that will pay for capital improvements on the golf course to a future meeting of council. Counselor Taylor, is that wording work for you? Thank you, Counselor Taylor. Counselors, anything further? Ooh, Counselor Haas.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess my only concern with this is I'm in agreement of the current potential for the land sale that is in contract right now. I'm just not sure about any land sales. I would like to have that conversation if that were to happen. I don't want to give the impression that we are selling any more land around the golf course at this point, because we don't own a lot more around it. So I'm concerned that, you know, the message that might be sending, but having the conversation about the Part 99 and that development and the proceeds from that going to a dedicated, that's my only concern. But I guess at this point it's a report. So I guess we'll see what other options there are. Is that if that's the case?
CO Panasiuk.
Yeah, through the mayor to members of council, that'll be all part of the details of the report that we'll need to provide. We'll need to define what near means.
Thank you.
Is it on? Is it, you know, within X amount of, you know, those are all the different types of details that need to be ironed out. But I think that the intent is clear of what we're trying to accomplish, and we can certainly look to build some policy around that and get to council.
Okay, with that, if I may, then I'm in support of that, knowing that will come and yeah, the near, what does that mean? So I appreciate that from CEO Panasiuk. So I'll be in favor of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Haas. Counselor Taylor.
Yeah, it does say from the sale of the land. And the intent is not for operations. It's not for capital related to the project that's currently going on, because that should stand on its own. It's related to all those things that the golf course says needed to fix for a long period of time. Some of those holes and things like that. And this will provide hopefully money for that. Thanks.
Thank you, Counselor Taylor. Council, anything further? Seeing nothing, we'll call the question. The council direct administration to bring a report that any proceeds from the land sale near the golf course be dedicated to a fund that will pay for capital improvements on the golf course to a future meeting of council. And before we call the question, Councilor Ostashik.
Yeah, my apologies. I just want to seek clarity to make sure I have a full understanding of what we're voting on, because that wording is actually significantly different than the wording of the notice of motion. The notice of motion said any development near the golf course. This motion says the land sale near the golf course. And I believe Councillor Taylor just spoke to saying this is for this one particular sale. I just want clarification. Are we talking any future potential sales on or near the golf course, or is it related to the specific sale for the proposed Part 999 development?
CEO Panasiuk, how is this being taken by administration?
Through the mayor to members of council, the way I interpreted this motion was that we would be looking at any development not specific to Part 999 and how we would handle these in the now and in the future, and what we would dedicate towards a capital reserve fund from any proceeds related to a sale, not specific to Part 999, but generally speaking, how we would handle this now and in the future.
Thank you, CEO Panasiuk. And this wording is clear about that from your perspective?
Through the mayor, as long as my interpretation of it is what council is aiming at, then yes.
If I could follow up,
Councilor
Mr.
Ostashik,
Mayor.
yes.
So appreciating administration's interpretation of it, that's in line of what my interpretation, but I want to look to Councillor Taylor though, to make sure that that was the intent of his motion.
Councilor Taylor?
Yes.
Very good.
Thank you, Councilor Taylor. Thank you, Councilor Ostashik. Okay, council, the motion we will call the question, the council direct administration to bring a report that any proceeds from the land sale near the golf course be dedicated to a fund that will pay for capital improvements on the golf course to a future meeting of council. Councillors, please vote now. And that motion is carried unanimously. Council, anything further for item 7.7 on the agenda? Seeing nothing, we'll move to section 8, information items. And 8.1, the Help Report 2024 Emergency Temporary Shelter Program. CEO Panasiuk.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. If Ms. Juke has anything to add, she can feel free. But we have, as per our special meeting where we looked at the cold snap and dedicating some funding for temporary shelters due to some insurance issues that was being experienced by Help. We have come back with a report with all of the details related to that event, how many people. It also outlines the what they did for the different funding sources, how many rooms, how many people, what they did for food, any issues that arose. But if there are any specific questions related to this report, we'd be happy to answer.
Council? Councillor Taylor.
I believe at the time, it's good to see that there was all sorts of community support with this, and there was all sorts of folks who provided money in addition to the town. So I think a cause like this is going to get lots of support from other people. What I didn't see though, and I remember that we made a motion, was because providing housing is a provincial responsibility. I didn't see a letter or any information about this bill for the money we spent going to the MLA, so that we could begin discussions on their role in helping us fund these activities in Edmonton, in Hinton, just like Edmonton's doing and Calgary's doing and all these other guys are doing. They're not doing this without trying to get the people who are responsible to pay their fair share of the bill. Thanks.
CEO Panasiuk, or
through the mayor to members of council, that will be forthcoming. We did receive the invoice. We intend on turning that as well as the report provided into that letter to the provincial government as directed. So that's forthcoming.
Thank you, CEO Panasiuk. Councillor Chambers.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to commend, I guess, in general, I appreciated how the report was given to us with a lot more information on how everything went. I agree. It's lovely to see the help from, the different restaurants and West Fraser and different groups. And I really think it's worth mentioning that one of the points that she makes is that they want to commend our homeless friends for the help and assistance they gave the hotels. So I think you could really feel the gratitude in that paragraph for the group that was served during this difficult time, and that they appreciated it, and they were doing everything that they could to assist the help staff as well. So that was really big for me reading through that to really, I think, feel that level of impact that it had with that group. And it seems like it was quite successful. So I think a lot of commendation needs to go to all of those involved, because it does seem like it was quite successful. And certainly we need to work with our provincial counterparts so we're better prepared next year. But I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Councillor Chambers. Council, anything further? The chair would entertain a motion to accept for information. Councillor Ostashik.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I actually have a question. I'm not sure if there's anybody here that could respond to it or not, but I had an informal report that during this period, there was some damage done to some of the hotel rooms. And I'm not, I don't know for sure that it was related to the program that Help was doing, or if this was an independent opportunity for displaced people to be housed in hotel rooms. But I did hear that there were reports that hotel rooms were significantly damaged. I'm just wondering if anybody could speak to if that was through this program, and if it was, what was done or is going to be done to rectify that.
Ms. Duke?
So although I can't exactly answer that because I don't believe that I received a report on that either, I do know that HELP has expressed that the use of hotel rooms is not a sustainable method for warming shelters because of the stress on hoteliers. And so it seems to me where it's not exactly stated there, there is an implication that this is a difficult group, as we all know, to house. And so hotel rooms are not a sustainable long-term solution for it. That's the information we have.
Yeah, I'm content with that for now, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stashik. Thank you, Ms. Duke. Councillor Chambers.
I'd like to make the motion that we accept the help report for the 2024 Emergency Temporary Shelter Program for information as presented.
Thank you, Councillor Chambers. Council, the motion on the floor is that council accept the Help Report 2024 Emergency Temporary Shelter Program for information. Any discussion? Seeing nothing, we'll call the question. Councillors, please vote now. And that motion is carried unanimously. Council, anything further for item 8.1? Seeing nothing, we'll move on to item 8.2, 2023 Whistleblower Annual Report. CAO Panasiuk.
Through the mayor to member of council, we have approved the first whistleblower policy for the town of Hinton on June 6th. As per section 5.2.4, it states that an annual report is to be presented to council that is intended to outline the general nature of any whistleblower reports, the number of allegations received. I'm happy to report that there were no whistleblower reports received in 2023. If there are any questions about this or the process, I'd be happy to answer them, or Ms. Hope would be able to answer them.
Thank you, CAO. Councillor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, it's great to see that with this policy, we don't have any occurrences. I guess my question, now that it has been since June 6th, has there been any learnings that might have occurred that need to clean up this policy at all? And I know it's new, so I'm just curious if there's any intent for administration to bring forward, any review of the policy and any learnings.
CAO Panasiuk.
Through the mayor to members of council, we don't have anything specific to provide. I'm sure that if there is a complaint and we run it through the process and the newly developed directive, once that happens, you might always find some areas for improvement in the process. We have not received anything, so we don't intend on bringing this forward as a review item until its scheduled review date, or until there's it's become aware of to us that there's some issues that will need to be handled. But as of right now, we're comfortable with the process. We're comfortable with the policy, and I believe it was a 4-year review schedule. So unless we have a need to bring it forward sooner, we likely won't.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, CAO Panasiuk. Thank you, Councillor Haas. Council, anything further? Councillor Haas.
I'd like to move that we accept I could see the motion because I'm not, okay, the council accept the whistleblower annual report for information.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Council, the motion on the floor is that council accept the whistleblower annual report for information. Any discussion? Seeing nothing, we'll call the question. Councillors, please vote now. And that motion is carried unanimously. Council, anything further for item 8.2? Seeing nothing, we'll move to section 9, correspondence, and 9.1, Town of Hinton correspondence, January 2024. CAO Panasiuk, anything to add?
Through the mayor, nothing to add.
Thank you. Councillor Haas.
Yeah, before I move to accept the correspondence, I just want to highlight the last one, this coming week is the 2024 Alberta Boston Pizza Cup, is coming to our arena. I saw pictures of the setup. It looks fantastic, very professionally done. And I think one thing that I also want to mention, there was some discussion in the community that there was some games that were moved, home games moved to other communities this weekend. And I believe it was because of this event, is why. It had nothing to do with the arena itself, but we were preparing for this event that took a lot of time, a lot of work to make our arena look like a curling rink. So I just want the community to know, and I hope that user groups were clear when explaining that to the teams and stuff, why that was happening, because there was some concerns brought to the community's attention. But I want to welcome them as well and to let everyone know, I think there's still tickets available, and there's a schedule online on the Curling Club's Facebook page, so to check it out. So thank you. And with that, I'd like to move that we accept the correspondence for information.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. The motion on the floor is that council accept the correspondence for information. Council, any discussion? Seeing nothing, we'll call the question. The council accept the correspondence for information. Council, please vote now. And that motion is carried unanimously. Council, anything further for item 9.1? We'll move to section 10, notices of motion. CEO, are there any notices of motion this week?
Through the mayor, no, there has been none received.
Thank you, CEO Panasiuk. We'll move to section 11, reporting. 11.1, council reports. Start with Councillor Taylor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Race.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So last Thursday, I attended the Hinton Youth Adult Meeting. I can tell you a really, really good agenda is coming to the Hinton Youth Advisory. I'm not going to tell you what's on the agenda, but it's a very good agenda. I'm also attending a four-week Muni 101 course. It's a 2-hour session held every Thursday. I think it should be mandatory for anybody in municipal politics to take that course. We go over the MGA. We talk about roles and responsibilities of counselors. We talk about the procedural bylaw, code of conduct, closed sessions, why they should be short. So I have 2 more sessions left. Enjoying it immensely. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Race. Councillor Chambers.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have anything to report. I was part of one of those or 2 of those moved hockey games over the weekend, but very glad to travel to Evansburg, knowing that it was for a good cause. And I can tell you the teams that traveled from Vegreville and Lloydminster were very happy to play in Evansburg as well. So I guess it's all at a trade-off. But yeah, nothing to report otherwise.
Thank you, Councillor Chambers. Councillor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Very little to report. We are taking, there isn't a BBOC meeting happening this month. Our administration is on vacation, which is great, and we're taking the month off for the group, and we will reconvene next month. Other than that, that's all I had to report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Councillor Ostashik.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have nothing to report.
Thank you, Councillor Ostashik. And for myself, I'm going to be opening up the Boston Pizza Cup curling tournament on Thursday. It's very exciting. And this month we have Winter Magic, the Winter Magic Festival. I know that there's still tickets available for a number of the events that require them, but a quick update on what the events are. On Friday, February 9th, that's this Friday, there's ski for free at the Hinton Nordic Center. On Friday, February 9th, this Friday again, there's a family dance Hawaiian luau put on by the FCC. On Saturday, the 10th, there's ski for free at the Hinton Nordic Center. Great time. Saturday, February 10th, the Growler Fat Bike Race. We're kicking that off at noon up at Maxwell Lake. Sunday, February 11th, we've got ski for free at the Hinton Nordic Center. Same thing on the 12th. It just goes on, and you can find out all about this at hinton.ca/wintermagic. And thank you very much for that. CAO, we'll move on to reporting 11.2 CAO reporting.
Thank you, Mayor. Nothing to report.
Thank you, CAO Panasiuk. That brings us to section 12, closed session. CAO, can you confirm there are no closed session items this evening?
I can confirm there is no closed session today.
Thank you. And move on a little too quickly there, Councillor Taylor. Go ahead, Councillor Taylor.
Oh, I had a couple of CAO questions with respect to reporting.
Perfect. Ask away.
We had some really exciting news this week with the Mondi announcement. This is absolutely historic in Hinton and in terms of things that happen in Hinton over 100 or 140 years that actually make a difference. They're usually resource related, and this again is something that's resource related. It brings us a paper mill. I'm wondering if you could explain for the benefit of the public, well, something about the operating or capital costs that we would have had in the town if we didn't have these agreements. Are you prepared to do that now, or is that a fair question to ask?
CAO Panasiuk.
Through the mayor to members of council, and there's been a lot of numbers related to these assets swirling around in my brain, and they're starting to meld together a little bit. But, you know, when we're looking at the water service agreement, really what this is providing is valuable time required in order to adequately plan for the potential future water treatment plant. Looking at that 20 years down the road, you know, today, if we were going to do it, which you know, before these agreements was extremely likely. We were looking at probably around $100 million. $100 million. So that is a significant benefit to us on the water side. We will be looking at making, a little over $6 million in investments, and that's for a 20-year period. So that's a significant benefit to us. 82.5% of that investment that we'll be making early on into the security and the infrastructure related to our water will be covered by will be grant funded, approved through Alberta Transportation. When it comes to the water and wastewater, that's where I think we have a lot of benefit. Operational costs. I believe what we have, the cost historically will go up. If we were to operate our own system, we would probably be looking at $2 to $2.5 million per year. As of right now, we are looking, I believe we are looking at about 500,000. So that is a significant savings on a yearly basis versus our maintaining our own mechanical treatment system. When it comes to the capital costs, we'll be looking at a capital investment of roughly 16 to 17 million over a 10-year time frame. And you compare 16 to 17 million of what it would cost us to move to our own independent system, which would likely be closer to 80 million. So, I think that these agreements are save the town significant amount of dollars by looking at a private-public partnership. It also provides us necessary time in order to plan for the future. And, with the investments that are going to be made that are contemplated throughout those agreements, we also have a much better system than we ever had in the past. We're safer, more secure. We'll have better outcomes in terms of the water that's treated. We'll have better outcomes with the wastewater and the effluent quality. So I think there's a tremendous amount of benefits, and I think it's and if you do compare that to our alternative, I think this partnership is very advantageous to the community.
That was very comprehensive. Thank you.
Thank you, CAO Panasiuk. Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Go ahead, Councillor Taylor.
Over the last little while, this council spent some time in camera. Not that the time in camera that we've spent is larger than it's been in the past, because I keep track of that kind of stuff. But nonetheless, we have spent time in camera. So it's probably time that we try to let the public know what we've been doing And that comes to speaking to these agreements that we've signed. And when can we make them public in appropriate form? Recognizing that there might be a need to redact, might be stuff in it that or schematic diagrams that maybe Mondi has that they don't want released or something like that. Can you comment on that, please?
The Opanasiak.
Through the mayor to members of council. So upon execution of the agreements, which would have officially happened Saturday morning, that went along with the closing, that's when those agreements were executed and have now become FOIPable. So there's absolutely no concern with proactively sharing them with the community. We are in the process right now of confirming what may need to be redacted, and just in respect of working with a private partner, there may be information that is proprietary. There may be information that is harmful for their private interests, so those may be redacted. But I think for the most part, the vast majority of that agreement will be shared, and hopefully soon. We're just receiving official word from Mondi of their opinion on what can be shared, but we do intend that these agreements could be made public relatively soon.
Councillor Taylor, follow up.
So when you get that word from them, then you will redact as necessary and then just put them someplace where they're available for the public without having to FOIP.
The Opanasiak.
Through the mayor, yes, that's correct.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, CEO Opanasiak. Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Council, anything further for item 11.2? CEO report. Nope. Okay, moving on to section 13, adjournment, and 13.1. Councillor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move to adjourn.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Council, the motion on the floor is that council adjourn the meeting at 6:19. Please vote now. And that motion is carried unanimously. Council is adjourned. Thank you, everyone in the audience, for sticking around.